Evening, we'll call the meeting to order. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. Seeing none, reading and confirmation of the minutes. Resolution of the minutes of the Council Planning Committee meeting held on November 3rd, 2025 be approved. Councillor Brown, Councillor Kelly, all in favor. That's carried. Thank you. I have some opening remarks. The public meeting is being heard by the Council Planning Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The citizen appointees are Mr. John Baltutis, Mr. Paul Jennings, and Mr. Rita Van Dyke. They may ask questions and participate in the discussion to assist in recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. And an update regarding Bill 185, the right to appeal a planning decision is now restricted further. Appeals are limited to the applicant, the minister, approval authorities, public bodies, and specified persons who have made oral or written submissions prior to the adoption of the official plan amendment or zoning bylaw amendment. The specified persons are defined in the Planning Act and are made up of a limited list of entities, mainly consisting of impacted utility providers or telecommunication infrastructure providers. Therefore, it is crucial for those directly affected to make their submissions known during the public meeting. The Engineering and Development Services Department will consider comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments in analyzing the applications that are part of the public meeting tonight. For further information on how to provide comments to the city regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Council Planning Committee's recommendations regarding today's applications are requested to leave their name and address on the appropriate notification sheet on the clipboard beside the podium. Moving on to the public meetings portion, 5.1, Notice of Public Meeting, Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw 2024-100, 1228 Harmony Road, Belleville, and the file number is PLZBA 2025-0377. Staff could present the application, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The subject lot land is located on the southeast corner of the intersection of Harmony Road and Shore Road. It's located solely on the east side of an unopened road allowance that divides the land municipally known as 1228 Harmony Road. Consent application PLCST 2025-0296, which was approved on November the 20th, 2025, granted provisional approval to sever one residential lot from the subject land for the purpose of severing the existing dwelling that surplus as a result of a farm consolidation. On the severed lot also exist two sheds and a building that would be used as a storage barn. The severed lot is located on the northeast corner of the subject land. It has a lot frontage of approximately 204.9 meters on Harmony Road and a lot area of 1.5 hectares. The retained lot is a farmland. It has a lot frontage of approximately 177.3 meters on Harmony Road and a lot area of 18.5 hectares. Minor variance application PLMMV 2025-0366, which was approved on January the 15th, 2026, granted relief to recognize the reduced required lot area of the retained lot as a result of the provisionally approved consent. As a condition of consent, this application proposes to rezone the severed lot from agricultural AG zone to rural residential RR zone, and rezone the retained lot from agricultural AG zone to agricultural AG-X zone with a special provision that prohibits any residential uses. The official plan designation of the subject land is agricultural land use. Since the writing of the staff report, Quinte Conservation and the Policy Planning section have provided correspondence regarding the application, and no concerns and objections have been received and made. Staff have received no correspondence from the public regarding this application. Staff recommend referring this application to staff for a dedicated decision as a bylaw relating to a severance of a surplus farm dwelling. Back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the application? Okay, a resolution that the zoning amendment application PLZBA 2025-50377 be referred to the regular planning advisory committee for consideration. Moved by Councillor Brown, second by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 5.2, notice of public meeting, zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, housekeeping amendment 3 to zoning bylaw 2024-100. File number is PLZBA 2025-0378. If staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A bit of background. Council passed zoning bylaw 2024-100 on March 11th, 2024, and it was a significant update, consolidation of 3 former bylaws, and it affected all properties in the municipality. Then on July 8th of 2024 and again February 10th of 2025, Council passed housekeeping amendments to clean up minor issues that had been identified and essentially improve the implementation of the bylaw. Staff meet regularly to discuss interpretation of zone provisions in the new bylaw, and we maintain an ongoing list of proposed adjustments with the intent of clarifying provisions and making improvements to streamline implementation. So after working with the bylaw for another year, staff is now recommending this third housekeeping amendment for some additional fine-tuning and further corrections. Got a list of proposed amendments. These include increasing flexibility in dwelling design, clarifying provisions for accessory dwelling units in terms of location, floor area, and amenity area, relocating provisions related to railway influence for more general application, adding greater flexibility for accessory buildings in industrial zones, applying garage door setbacks more consistently from property lines, increasing permitted encroachment for eaves to 0.6 meters to reflect standard construction techniques instead of having to cut them off at 0.5 meters, clarifying the application of landscape buffers around parking lots, clarifying the applicability to projects that have also gone through provincial Class EA processes, specifically permitting places of worship in mixed-use zones, increasing flexibility for special events, adjusting certain definitions for clarity, rewording limits on home occupation floor area to ensure consistent understanding and application, and minor clerical revisions around transition provisions to maintain the intent of the bylaw. The proposed amendments also include introducing a site-specific front yard setback that applicable provisions under the previous bylaw had applied to one property, and rezoning portions of 2 properties to address mapping oversights and to place them wholly within a C3 regional commercial zone rather than having them split between partly C3 and partly IN2, which is service industrial now. Staff recommends this application be recommended to Council for approval to expedite the proposed improvements, and no public comments have been received regarding this application.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak to this application? Seeing none, a resolution of the zoning amendment application number PLZBA 2025-0378 be referred to the regular planning advisory committee for consideration. Moved by Councillor Wright Miller, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And resolution of the public meeting be adjourned at 5:38 p.m. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest, the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Reading and confirmation of the minutes, that the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on December 1st, 2025 be approved. Mr. Baltutis, Ms. Van Dyke, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There's no deputations. Correspondence, resolution of the Planning Advisory Committee received the correspondence for information. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 1228 Harmony Road, City of Belleville. File number is PLZBA 2025-0377. Resolution reads that the planners report APS-2026-02, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 1228 Harmony Road, City of Belleville be received, and that pursuant to the planners report APS-2026-02, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024-100, 1228 Harmony Road, City of Belleville, file number PLZBA 2025-0377, be referred to staff for a decision in accordance with the delegation of authority bylaw. Moved by Mr. Jennings, seconded by Councillor Brown. Any questions or comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. On the actual report, this is for staff, but the proposal indicates that there will be no new development on the section of the property, the retained property, excuse me, the 18.5 meters. But I noted in both the aerial and in the description is that all of the structures, be it house, barn, sheds, etc., will all be on the severed property, which simply leaves agricultural land. Even in the aerial photographs, you can see that there's no other structures on the retained piece of property. What you can see is hay bales that are in the picture. So my question for staff is, will this piece of property be consolidated with another property zoned as agricultural so that it can continue to be farmed?
Staff?
So no matter whether the retained lot would be possessed by the existing owner or the owner sells the land to another property owner, the land would stay in the agricultural use without any residential use, and it is supposed to be consolidated with another piece of farmland. But zoning-wise, it would not necessarily require a rezoning of the land being consolidated with this land.
And if I may, it was just a follow-on. And just FYI, I did call staff ahead of time to pose so that they knew the questions were coming. My concern is that if at some point in the future somebody wished to purchase that piece of farmland and put a residence on it so they could actually reside on their farm, we have it zoned with the AGX category that they can't do the residential, which means that there's a risk of the property going dormant because it can't be used unless it's being used by another farm property. So at this stage, do we, and I don't need to know who, but do we know if the property is in fact being consolidated with another nearby farm property?
So before the meeting, and we definitely received your question in advance, and Greg actually tried to check if the property owner owns a land nearby, and we did find a nearby property owned by the property owner, and if the property owner chooses to continue processing the land, then he can consolidate this retained lot with the other land he is processing.
Wonderful, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I got a resolution on the floor. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 6.2, housekeeping amendment to zoning bylaw 2024-100, file number BLZBA 2025-0378. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that pursuant to Manager of Approvals Report APS-2026-03, housekeeping amendment to zoning bylaw 2024-100, the proposed city-initiated housekeeping amendment number 3 to zoning bylaw 2024-100 as amended, consisting of text and schedule amendments included as attachments number 2 and number 3 to report APS-2026-03 be approved. Moved by Councillor Wright Miller, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Mr. Baltutis.
If I may, through the chair to the staff, I've got two issues, and maybe it's something simple, just need an explanation, is the railway influences on page 29. What does that mean by influence overlay section?
Certainly, through the chair to the committee, the railway influence overlay was one of several. There's a section on overlay zones that essentially apply to a fixed area on the map, and so there was a buffer put around the railway tracks out. I think it was 75 or 100 meters. Right. And so technically those provisions would apply to land within that area, but some of the provisions within the overlay talk about requiring noise studies within 300 meters. So all of a sudden you had a situation where provisions that were intended to apply to a larger area technically didn't. So by taking the overlay and instead moving it into general provisions, it's just saying if you're near a railway and you fit this criteria, these provisions apply. So really it's just making it so what was supposed to be able to be implemented can be implemented.
Okay, thank you. My second question, if I may, is on page 31. This is regarding the cornices, sills, eaves, and eaves troughs. Now, they say you're going to allow the overhang a little bit closer to my neighbor's property, but our eaves troughs have to be part of that extension? So could somebody just put up a roof and not have the eaves troughs? You know, so the roof is extended, that extra, and if it's close enough to my property, as an example, and rainwater comes off of that roof onto my property, or should they have the eaves troughs must be applied or attached to that roof? I know that's kind of a building code, but are we allowing somebody to have that extension of the roof closer to my property, as an example, without an eaves trough?
Through the chair, that is a good question, and yes, the bylaw doesn't technically regulate whether you need an eaves trough or not, and that would come down to building code. That could also be affected through property standards, I believe, if you're directing water onto your neighbor's property.
And you're not allowed to?
Yeah, but essentially the intent of this amendment was just to say rather than going 0.5 in, you could go 0.6 in. So to your point, that would move the maximum encroachment, say for a detached garage, to 40 centimeters from a lot line instead of 50. So yeah, that could be a consideration.
Because the reason my concern is that you're not allowed to dump water onto my property. So that's all.
Yeah, and that I believe that is something through property standards that there is wording to that effect.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No, I got a motion on the floor. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. No reports, information matters, resolution at the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report dated February 2026 be received. Moved by Councilor Wright Miller, second by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. No general business and adjournment. Resolution at the meeting be adjourned at 5:48 p.m. Mr. Baltutis and Councilor Wright Miller, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you.